Good evening, everyone. Please take your seats. I will call to order the meeting of the Glendale City Council for May 18th, 2010. May we have the roll call, please?
Council members Raymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Quintero. Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here. Who would like to do that? I'm going to ask Councilmember Weaver to lead us in the flag salute. I know, it's a big night for you, but I need help. We're short one man.
Please join me in our flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Reverend Rich Garner from First United Methodist Church.
It's good to be with you in this more intimate setting over here in this building on stilts. Let us pray. O presence of the Holy that draws us beyond ourselves and opens us to remarkable possibilities and creative opportunities, we ask that you bless us so that we may bless others. When we encounter the many who are anxious, may we be compassionate and hopeful. To those who are in need of assistance, may we be receptive to both their spoken and unspoken cries and concerns. As we are challenged to lead ever more skillfully and fruitfully, may we develop personal and professional resources that increase our capabilities. In every moment when we must bring forth difficult truth, may we express ourselves clearly and authentically. In all that we speak and do this evening, may we be humble in our hearing and gracious in our response. Fill us with an unwavering resolve to serve this community, all people, even sacrificially. Surround us, we pray, with generous peace and abundant love. Amen.
Amen.
May we have your report, please?
The agenda for the May 18, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, May 13, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. The next item.
At 3A, under presentation and appointments, is the agenda preview for the meetings of May 25th, 2010.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for May 25th, there are no Glendale Housing Authority business agenda items. At 2:30, we do have a joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Housing Authority, Director of Community Services and Parks, regarding their 5-year consolidated plan for addressing community development, homeless, housing, and economic development needs in the City of Glendale. We do have a Glendale Redevelopment Agency item, public hearing, Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing, request for parking exception for one space and standard variances. In the afternoon, still continuing on after 2:30, joint public meeting of City Council and the Redevelopment Agency, Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing, the Central Glendale Redevelopment Project Area, proposed 9th Amendment. For the Glendale City Council meeting at 6 p.m., we have one consent item, General Manager of Glendale Water and Power, furnishing technical advisory, inspection, and engineering services. Under adoption of ordinances, ordinance authorizing and approving a lease of real property to Trader Joe's Company. And under action items, we have 2 items, Mr. Mayor. Director of Information Services, recommendation to approve a contract with AT&T via a State of California Master Services Agreement for telephone services for a 2-year period with an option to renew. And lastly, Director of Administrative Services Finance regarding their 3rd quarter financial update and adjustments to the adopted 2009-2010 budget. That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you. Next item, please.
At 3B is a proclamation designating May 22nd, 2010 as Glendale's Great American Cleanup Day.
Thank you. Is Joyce Ivazi here? Sam, is there someone else who's going to come forward?
Mayor Najarian, members of the City Council, I'd like to introduce Jim Reichgelt, who's our chair-elect. Ms. Ivesy is on vacation this week.
Okay. Sir, let me read the proclamation. Then I'm going to have Councilmember Friedman present it to you, and then you can make some remarks.
Thank you.
And it is as follows. Whereas the Glendale City Council is committed to a litter-free community with neighborhoods that provide residents a high quality of life And whereas the City of Glendale is fortunate to have conscientious, hardworking, and dedicated volunteers who feel a personal responsibility to continually maintain Glendale as a clean and beautiful community, and the Committee for a Clean and Beautiful Glendale raises funds annually to support the city's community beautification and civic pride efforts, and the efforts of the Committee for a Clean and Beautiful Glendale resulted in the city's designation as one of the top 3 Keep America Beautiful cities in the nation, and the efforts of the Committee for a Clean and Beautiful Glendale have resulted in a commitment from more than 800 volunteers to actively help eliminate blight, pick up litter, and beautify the city of Glendale by participating in the 22nd Annual Glendale Great American Cleanup Day on Saturday, May 22nd, 2010. And whereas these Glendale residents will join millions of other volunteers across the nation in performing community improvement projects as part of the Keep America Beautiful's Great American Cleanup. Now, therefore, I proclaim May 22nd, 2010 as Glendale's Great American Cleanup Day and commend the hundreds of dedicated community volunteers who freely give their time and energy to help eradicate visual blight in our jewel city. Ms. Friedman.
Yes, I wanted to just add my thanks and appreciation to you and the volunteers for the important work that you do in the community. Congratulations for this proclamation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Najarian. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'd like to invite you and all Glendale residents to take part in Glendale's 22nd Annual Great American Cleanup on Saturday, May 22nd, as you stated, at 9 a.m. Hundreds of volunteers will gather on the 100 block of North Isabel in front of the Glendale Police Department before going into the community to paint out graffiti, pick up litter, and clear out neglected vacant alleys and lots. Following the cleanup, volunteers will celebrate with a barbecue lunch prepared by the Jewel City Kiwanis with live entertainment. You can't miss the entertainment. The Great American Cleanup is a national Keep America Beautiful event, which is expected to involve as many as 2.5 million people, volunteering more than 8 million hours to clean, beautify, and improve 15,000 communities during 30,000 events in all of these 50 states of the United States of America. Any members of the public interested in participating can pre-register at www.cleanupglendale.org or call the Neighborhood Services offices at 818-548-3972. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the over 400 volunteers who have already registered for the event and everyone who will be in attendance for their efforts in making Glendale the #1 Keep America Beautiful city in the state of California. In appreciation for your support of the community beautification efforts of the Committee for a Clean and Beautiful Glendale, I'd like to present each of you with your own 2010 commemorative T-shirt. Okay, here they are. And thank you very much.
And I might add, for all you students in the audience or watching at home, this is a great opportunity to get those service hours before the end of the school year. And it takes place right outside City Hall in front of the police building. You'll get breakfast, you'll get the equipment, you'll get an assignment, and when you're done, there's, as the gentleman indicated, a barbecue with music and a lot of fun. So we'd like you to get involved.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Next item, please.
At 3C is a proclamation supporting no texting while driving.
Thank you. And here's the proclamation. I'm going to ask Councilmember Weaver to present it, and I believe we have Rich Roach from AT&T in the audience to come forward. And it is as follows. Whereas the City of Glendale holds the health and safety of its citizens as a paramount concern, and whereas the use of text messages has grown exponentially in recent years, and a recent Pew Internet and American Life Project study found that 26% of American teens of driving age say that they have texted while driving, and 48% of all teens 12 to 17 say that they have been a passenger while a driver has sent a text message. And a recent Virginia Tech study showed sending electronic text messages while driving makes an accident 23 times more likely. And whereas a study conducted by the Transport Research Laboratory in the United Kingdom showed that sending text messages while driving is riskier than driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And a driver that attempts to send electronic text messages while driving is not just a hazard to themselves, but to passengers, other drivers, and pedestrians as well. And whereas the United States Department of Transportation has banned all commercial truck and bus drivers from sending electronic text messages while driving, with the support of the drivers' unions, and it is illegal to send electronic text messages while driving in the state of California, I strongly support no texting while driving. Join AT&T and all other responsible business owners and residents in promoting safe driving in Glendale and across California.
It's not fair to me. You know that study that came out of Europe? I guess it's making its way around now. I saw it on TV where students actually died in it, showing they were texting. Said it's very graphic. You have to make those kind of messages. Some young adults. I'm sure none of the students here from Clark Magnet have ever text while driving, right? Perfect.
I like this.
Perfect.
This is good stuff.
Most of it is the education, teaching the kids and adults don't do it. There's enough already using cell phones illegally. Today it's texting. Congratulations.
But thank you very much to the council for joining with AT&T in this informational campaign. There's 4 really key elements of this that I'd like to just reiterate real quickly. Be smart, never text when driving, because you could get distracted and cause an accident. Be caring, be aware. Don't send messages to people who you know are going to be driving, because then they're tempted to pick up their phone. Be in control. This is a pretty simple one. A phone is a tool just like anything else. You can turn it off, you can ignore it. You don't have to reply to every message if you're driving. Put it in your glove box if you're tempted. The 4th thing, be an example to your family and friends. What you do, people see, and if you're texting, your kids will probably start texting also. So thank you very much for this proclamation and for joining with us. I appreciate it.
The next item, please.
Next item is City Council and staff comments.
Mr. Weaver, Mr. Draymond, Ms. Friedman.
Commentless.
Okay, I have a few. That's good because I have a bunch.
10 of them.
I would like to announce to everyone that this Saturday, May 22nd, from 2:30 to 4, at the Glendale Central Library, our state senator, Senator Carol Liu, will be holding a budget town hall where she will be listening to your comments on the state budget. You are invited to attend. Anyone who would like further information can get some more details by calling 818-409-0400. That's this Saturday at 2:30 at the Glendale Public Library at East Harvard. Parking is across the street in the Marketplace garage, and it is validated. The next item is, it's rather serious, and this is regarding our participation in the United States Census. We are not doing a very good job. I am informed that only about 75% of our households have completed and returned the U.S. Census forms. It is required for every household to respond to the census survey. And if your home does not respond, if no one from your house responds, there will be a follow-up, a knock on your door by a U.S. Census employee. Do not chase this person away. Do not be mean. Do not be rude. This is his job to find out how many people are living in your household. The information obtained is private. It is confidential. It is very important for everyone in our community to be counted. It affects things such as congressional districting. It affects things such as Section 8 housing allocations. I said Section 8 housing. I know there's a huge demand and inquiry upon us to obtain more Section 8 housing funds. If we are undercounted, those funds will be redirected to another city. It is important that we all please respond to the census and respond to the knock on the door from a census worker. If anyone has any questions, Jeff Hamilton of the city is coordinating this. His number is 818-937-8157. So please, cooperate with the nice people from the U.S. government. Yes.
I just wanted to add that if anyone's nervous about security and about the person who comes to your door, every census worker carries an identification badge that says U.S. Census, and they will never ask to come inside your home. So you don't have to let them in, you just have to give them information. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Weaver.
I will add one thing for the students of Clark Magnet. I also decorate the Glendale Rose Float crew chief, and if you don't get enough community service hours on the cleanup, sign up this year to work on the Rose Float. You can get community service hours that way, too. So, since I signed a lot of those today, that's what you owe me.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I just want to, I was fortunate enough this Monday to participate in the LA County Bike Week celebration, and we talked about this last week, Colin and Councilmember Friedman. It's a great thing. The unfortunate thing is that we only celebrate this once a week, and we shouldn't focus on bicycling just once a week. It really should be a year-long activity for all of us. It is one of the cleanest forms of transportation, aside from walking. And even if you can't ride your bike every leg and every step of your journey, all of our Beeline buses, as well as all the MTA buses, have bike racks that are available. On May 20th, Thursday, you will be receiving a free ride on any MTA bus if you are there with your bike and a bike helmet. You need a helmet as well. It's a commitment that the MTA has towards making bicycling one of our regular means of transportation. If you bike instead of driving your car, you can reduce your carbon footprint by at least 20 pounds a day. And that's a huge amount. That's 2 tons a year. And you can save all sorts of money by riding your bike instead of getting in your car and driving around. MTA has spent close to $200 million on more than 100 bikeway projects and other facilities and programs in Los Angeles County. Later on in the agenda, we'll be discussing in detail, I think, some of those projects. Only 1% of the trips in LA County are made by bike, and it would be great if we could double that or triple that in the next year or two. So I encourage all bicyclists to get around. Thursday is officially the Bike to Work Day, and I have some gifts that, well, the only person I can shower them on is Miss Friedman, so sorry, guys. I have, because she is an avid bicyclist, and I think you biked to...
I bike to work today.
To City
My bike
Council
is
today.
out there right now.
I'm happy to present you the official Metro bike map that shows
you.
all the bike routes. In case you get a flat, I have a patch kit for
great.
you.
Do you have any clips in there?
I don't have any clips. And just to have an angel on your side, I've got a little cycling angel pin for you to always keep you safe as you drive, as you bicycle the streets of Glendale.
That's wonderful.
And other parts of the county. You guys, if you guys were bicyclists, I'd give it to you too, but...
Will you be biking here on Thursday?
Mr. Mayor, I just
On the bike rack.
wanted to say I do my part for bike and pedestrian safety by staying off the road on a bicycle.
And
I rode a Schwinn back in the 40s, so...
and we should all be very much more observant of bicyclists, because there are more people riding their bikes. If you're driving a car, obviously we don't want you texting while you're driving, but also keep a keen eye out for bicyclists who share the road with you, and they have as much right to the roadway as you do. So that's all I have, folks. Anything else? Did I jog anyone's memory on any other announcement?
No, thank you.
Anything from staff? You're welcome. Okay, thank you. Next item?
Next item, number 5, is consent. The consent calendar, the following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed. One card was submitted for 5F.
Okay, we'll pull 5F.
I'll move the consent calendar at 5, with the exception of.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
A roll call, please.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero? Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. 5F, please.
5F is Director of Public Works regarding construction of the bicycle and pedestrian facilities. At F1 is a resolution appropriating $111,168.
Let's see. I have a card from Nancy Kent. Would you like to hear a report first, or would you like to just jump right into comment?
If it's going to be a report, I'd rather have it first.
Why don't we have a brief summary if we can? Steve Zern, is that your?
That's fine, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is the long-standing Transportation Development Act funds, which are still producing grant monies for agencies when most aren't anymore. But this one has a special component for bicycle and pedestrian improvement facilities. And we applied for these funds, were granted these funds. As a side note, we also applied in the last funding cycle and received $150,000 to update our bikeway master plan. But for this particular cycle, we're proposing to install a dedicated bike lane along Foothill from Pennsylvania to Lowell. And this connects up with the bike lane that was installed by the county in the unincorporated area. And the word we have is that Lackawanna Flint Ridge, City of Lackawanna Flint Ridge, is also going to put a bike lane on their portion of Foothill. So we'll have a continuous run of that in that northern part of the city. We're also looking at, there are 3 locations on Colorado where we have embedded crosswalk lighting currently. And in order to upgrade that to make it even more visible, we're proposing to use some of these funds to put in what are the cross-arm beacons, so that you will, for motorists, to get a better look at the use of the crosswalk. So like we have throughout mid-brand, where we have put these up, and these are the large, almost like mast arms on the traffic signals, and they have flashing lights and pedestrian signage, and those are all activated when the individuals cross. So we have those at Cedar, Porter, and Fisher, where there are existing crossings now. And finally, we're using the remainder of the funds to purchase bike racks and place those throughout the city at a number of locations.
Thank you. And let me ask one question. With regard to bike stations, bike lockers, I guess, let me discuss that. Do we have anything planned at the Transportation Center?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, based on a previous council meeting where you asked that question, we've been exploring the opportunity to put in the bike stations at the Transportation Center and other locations in the city, and also with that looking at what's called a bike sharing program, where we actually have folks who may get off the train and don't lug their bike, but that we can assign a bike and a helmet to, and then they can go from the train station to wherever their final destination is within the city. So all of those are a work in progress at this point, but we certainly would like to pursue that. We are pursuing that.
Great. Let me call up Nancy Kent.
Nancy Kent, resident of Glendale. I'm glad to see that this is on the agenda, and Glendale's statistics for pedestrian safety are not wonderful, and I think that the best way to improve pedestrian safety is not to develop brochures with tips for pedestrians. The best thing is to develop a network of safe bike routes to encourage people to leave their cars at home and use a bike. And thank you to Mayor Najarian for all your comments about bicycling earlier in the meeting.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I'm just glad to see this moving forward and being taken seriously, and I think it's going to be a long road to get where we need to go, and I've been trying to do as much public outreach as I can about what this is all about, and we'll continue to do that, and I appreciate the support of the council for this as well, and I encourage the young people that are here and maybe watching to take this on as well, because if you're serious about the environment and about making a better future, this is a great way to start. So I just wanted to give a call out. For those at home who don't know, we have a room filled with what looks like high school or college students here. I'm not sure. Clark Magnet. High school. It could be college. They're very close.
They're Panthers, by the way.
Panthers. Okay, great. Well, welcome, Clark Magnet. Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion?
I will make the motion to...
Second. Roll call, please. 5F.
Council members Draymond,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item would be oral communications.
Thank you. This is our 3-minute version of oral communications. Colin Bogart, followed by Leon Mayer.
Mayor Najarian, council members, city staff, good evening. My name is Colin Bogart. I work with the LA County Bike Coalition in partnership on a project here in the city of Glendale. And I'm here again tonight to just remind everybody that Bike Month in Glendale continues. And I wanted to announce a couple of the events that we have coming up in the next week. As you've already said, Thursday is Bike to Work Day. And I've got a couple of slides to show. Starting with Bike to Work Day, we're actually going to have 5 pit stops, or what are called energy stations, here in Glendale for Bike to Work Day, where cyclists who are riding to work can stop, get something to drink, something to eat, get a couple of those patch kits and maps, and a couple other goodies. We're also going to be doing a survey at each of the locations. We did one of these last year. The point is to do this survey again this year. That way we can do some comparison between Bike to Work Day this year and last year, see if we've increased our numbers, that kind of thing. Probably the biggest pit stop will be at right out in front of City Hall here, 613 East Broadway. So Thursday, and the pit stops will be in the morning from about 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. The next event that we have coming up in the next week is Saturday, the 22nd. We are going to have the next history ride. This time it's going to be the historic parks of Glendale. And it's going to start at Chess Park, just like the previous one did, at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. And I guess we're having some trouble with that. There we go. So Saturday morning, historic parks by bicycle, starting at Chess Park. I actually just finished checking the route with members of the Historical Society not more than an hour ago. And I think it's going to be a great route, and that's going to go from about 9 to noon. And then Monday night next week at the Central Library, we're going to have a screening of a movie called Clunkers, which is about the history of mountain bikes. And I think it's going to be a really great evening because the director of that documentary, Billy Savage, who lives locally, is going to be coming to that screening, and he's going to do a question and answer session after the film screening. He's a really interesting guy, and it's a really fun documentary as well. And finally, just want to say if anybody wants more details about information about Bike Month and more details about all the events that are still planned for the remainder of the month, they can go to la-bike.org/Glendale/Bike Month. Say that 5 times fast. Or they can call 818-334-9731. And we invite everybody to attend. All these events are free. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leon Mayer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council and staff. My name is Leon Mayer. I'm here on behalf of the Glendale Library and the Friends of the Library. And at the beginning, I want to note that tomorrow night is the annual meeting of the Friends of the Library, and I have applications for membership in the Friends. It takes $10 or $20 or $30, $40 for a family or individual or a senior to join the Friends. Please support us. We appreciate it. You get I can give you these tonight, and you get them at the library. Our next event is May 30th. That's the day before Memorial Day. a Sunday. It'll be at 3 o'clock at the Central Library, and we're having an extraordinary individual who will talk about his book, On Board, My Life in the Navy, Government, and Business. And the individual tells a Horatio Alger story, a true story, of being in the Glendale Public Schools, being born 1920, going to Hoover High School where he was a star tennis player, student body president, class president, went on to USC, graduated with honors from USC, went to Harvard, started the Harvard Business School, and was interrupted by him going into the Navy. Became a naval officer, served in the South Pacific at the Battle of Leyte Gulf, was a line officer on an aircraft carrier, and was involved in several actions there in the liberation of the Philippines. His aircraft carrier was attacked by 2 kamikaze planes. He survived. The ship survived. Magnificent story. He comes back to this country, and he was actually probably one of the first American Armenian gentlemen born in Glendale. He was born here in 1920. His family got out of Turkey just about 3 years before the massacre of 1995. And they settled here. 1895. They settled here, and then he went on after his war service. He continued at Harvard. Then he went in the government. He became Undersecretary of the Army, Undersecretary of Defense, Secretary of the Navy. And he served under Johnson and Kennedy. He went into business, was in charge of the president of the Washington Post. One of his sons is David Ignatius, the famous writer. This man did it all. And then he continued to do it all in business, and he became president of the Airline Pilots Association. And he's going to be here in Glendale the day before Memorial Day. He's going to be here on Memorial Day to be the principal speaker for the Memorial Day services. And he's going to be talking about his book, On Board, My Story, My Life in the Navy and in Business and Government. It's going to be a tremendous program. I know it's a Sunday, but that's the only time he's available. He cannot play tennis anymore. He's played up till a few years ago, and that's it. And I welcome everybody to come to the library for that event.
Thank you,
I have
Mr. Mayor.
information here. Raise your hand if you want it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards for this portion of oral communications. Let's move to the next item.
Mr. Mayor and Council, next item under 7, adoption of ordinances, is 7A, ordinance adding Chapter 30.52, including sections 30.52.010, 30.52.020, .030, .040, .050, .060, .070, and .080 and .090 to Title 30 of the Glendale Municipal Code 1995 relating to the establishing a reasonable accommodation procedure, PZON 2009-004. This was offered on May 11, 2010 by Councilmember Weaver.
I would like to move 7A.
Second.
There's no discussion. Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Quintero? Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Yes. Next item.
Under action items at 8A is Director of Community Redevelopment and Housing regarding 2448 through 2468 Honolulu Avenue, adoption of a mitigated negative declaration MND, and approval of a ground lease agreement with the Trader Joe's Company. At 8A1 is resolution certifying and adopting a mitigated negative declaration MND for the project. At 8A2 is an ordinance for introduction for the ground lease agreement between the City of Glendale and Trader Joe's Company for property located at 2448 through 2468 Honolulu Avenue.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Weaver.
I suggest the Clark students stay. This is in your neck of the woods. Trader Joe's coming in. Might have something to talk about at school.
Thank you. Mr. Starbird.
Mr. Mayor, I'll ask Elena Babolian, Senior Administrative Analyst with Community Redevelopment and Housing, to give you the staff report on this.
Helena?
Mayor Najarian and members of the council, we're here tonight to present the lease terms and environmental review for the proposed Trader Joe's project. The project is to be located at 2448 Honolulu Avenue, across the street from Fire Station 29 and the Montrose Library. Back in September 2009, you directed us to continue negotiating with Trader Joe's on the final lease terms. Since then, we have successfully negotiated a ground lease agreement, which we are recommending approval of tonight. Just to highlight some of the key terms of the agreement, an initial 10-year term with 6 5-year options for a total of 40 years, a market rate rent of $220,000 per year with increases every 5 years. The city's responsibility is to deliver a clean site to Trader Joe's, with Trader Joe's constructing the project and improvement. Prior to any lease of any public property, a project must be evaluated per CEQA, and an environmental review was conducted for this project. The environmental review identified 2 areas which required further analysis. The 2 areas were for sound and traffic. Additional studies were prepared for these 2 areas to evaluate the potential impacts and also the potential mitigation measures. In order to mitigate the noise issues, the delivery hours are restricted between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m., and the delivery trucks will not be able to have backup alarms. In order to mitigate the traffic impacts, an all-way stop sign will be installed at the new intersection of Orangedale Avenue and the new driveway of the market. The pedestrian crosswalk will be relocated as a result of that stop sign. We received 1 public comment from a resident within walking distance of the site indicating her support for the project, and we did not receive any other further correspondence during the public comment period. We're happy to report that the Montrose Market will become the first Southern California Trader Joe's to become LEED or LEED certified for incorporating environmentally sustainable design and construction elements. If approval is received tonight, our next steps would include a public hearing for a conditional use permit to sell alcohol and a sign variance. Following that, the design of the building will be presented to the city's design review board. In an effort to work with the neighbors, Trader Joe's has reached out to the Montrose Shopping Park Association and to the Montrose Verdugo City Spar Heights Neighborhood Association. They met back in October, and another meeting is scheduled prior to the DRB presentation. I'd like to introduce to you the team that worked on this project. First of all, Doug Yokomizo, who's the Vice President of Real Estate for Trader Joe's, Kip Clayton, the project architect, and Carl Ballard of Koonsman Associates, who prepared the traffic study. We're available for any questions, and that concludes my brief report.
Thank you. I don't have any cards on this, but is there something?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just want to note for your consideration that the resolution approving the mitigated negative declaration was revised to include within the body of that resolution the 3rd mitigation measure, which was included in the mitigated negative declaration. So it is a revised resolution. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll be working with this as the operative document.
That's correct.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes, I was looking at the Los Angeles Business Journal this afternoon, waiting for council. And lo and behold, inside is the new opening of a Trader Joe's in Hollywood. It'll open this Friday, and it says, in one of LA's most highly anticipated grocery store openings in recent years. It'll open Friday. So we're getting a highly anticipated Trader Joe's up there. The only thing that I had wished at the time, and Mr. Draymond knows that next door I wanted a Bob's Big Boy. And we got one without the other. We're still going to have to work on
Keep looking,
Bob
Mr.
Big
Weaver.
Boy and back in Chicago where they are.
Keep looking.
But beyond that, it's great. It's going to anchor the west side up there. It'll get a lot of foot traffic, plus ones coming in. But it'll be great for the area up there. It's really, really needed. So I'm fully in support.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, as you can guess, I'm very excited about this this evening finally getting here, finally arriving for our council so that we have the opportunity to sort of formally get the ball rolling, although the ball has been rolling for some time in various stages of work with the council, with city staff, and, of course, Trader Joe's and the community. I just wanted to add to a portion of what staff was discussing about the public outreach. Public outreach was actually more than simply the Merchants Association and the Neighborhood Association, the homeowners group. This, and to a large degree, grew out of a planning effort as well. There were public meetings at the Montrose Library. There were public community meetings at Spar Recreation Center. There were face-to-face interviews at the Sunday market, the Harvest Market in Montrose, where planning staff sat and talked to people there, and that went on for, I think, 3 weeks. There was an online survey on our website. There were handouts for a survey that people could. And I know both Mr. Weaver and Mr. Najarian will recall that in June of 2007, as a newly minted council member, sitting not here but in our normal digs, we were talking about budget issues. And at the time, the plan had sort of been, or the thought had been, that we would have a new Montrose fire station on the site of this very former Ford lot, to the tune of somewhere around $17 million. There had also been a budget put forth to then expand the Montrose Public Library branch on that site to the tune of several more millions of dollars. And instead, I believe in its wisdom, this council opted to purchase the historic Rockhaven site as obviously to restore that historic site and make use of it in the same way that we do the Casa Verdugo or the Casa Adobe for public functions, and to make it open space for the public, and more importantly, as it relates to this, the new future site, when the budget allows for it, which is a little further back than we thought at the time, for the new home of the Montrose Branch Library, thus allowing the fire station to expand out on the existing footprint. We paid $8.25 million for Rockhaven, about $55 a foot, to secure that site. And with that came the discussion of a retail anchor for the Montrose Shopping Park on the west end. I'll tell you, Mr. Mayor, having grown up in the area, having once been the president of that association, and my father for many years having been on that organization's board, I can tell you that over a period of maybe 35 years, any number of surveys were conducted by the association to hire consultants to find out what would help best activate the west end of the Montrose Shopping Park. At least 3 studies that I remember very clearly, and over the years the conclusion was the same time after time. You need a strong retail anchor on the west end of the Montrose Shopping Park in the 2400 block, and it usually just ended right there. So I would personally like to thank the public, thank staff, thank my colleagues, especially Trader Joe's, for finally finding the right kind, and the public especially, for coming forward and saying, Trader Joe's, Trader Joe's, Trader Joe's, Trader Joe's. And as word of this began to leak out, Mr. Mayor, it just became when. That's the big question that I hear everywhere I go in the Crescenta Valley. When. Trader Joe's, when. So I'm very happy that we saved a good deal of money and actually created some revenue. We've activated the west end of the Montrose Shopping Park, hopefully. We will not only have a ground lease that creates revenue, but we will increase the sales tax revenue to this city and provide a much-needed grocery outlet in the south part of the Crescenta Valley that will serve the Verdugo Woodlands, Montecito Park area, Spar Heights area, Montrose area, South La Crescenta, Valley High area, all of which right now are served by one very small Vaughn's C-store. So I'm quite pleased, and I again express my thanks to the public, Trader Joe's, city staff, and my colleagues for seeing fit to bring this along. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just, I wasn't here when this all originated, but as far as I know, Mr. Draymond spearheaded this, and I'd say lovingly nurtured it along, and I think it's going to be a wonderful thing for that area, and I look forward to seeing it built. So thanks for bringing this here, and that, do you need a motion?
I just have a few brief comments. The terms of the ground lease, I think, are very equitable. The mitigation efforts and regarding the noise and the transportation and traffic, I think are going to be wholly acceptable to the community, and it's great to have a new neighbor coming into town. When?
That's the question.
Still a few more steps to go through,
yes.
But I think we're well on our way. So that being said, thank you, Trader Joe's, for being here, and as Councilmember Draymond said, thank you for the community for speaking, and Mr. Draymond for listening, and the rest of us for not getting in the way and screwing it up.
I just wondering, Mr. Mayor, can we ask staff when the next times the public will be seeing this here? Architectural design, or do we get involved again? When? Approximately.
Mr. Weaver and members of the council, you will not be seeing this project again. The design will be going to the city's design review board scheduled for June 10th, and prior to that, on June 8th, the planning hearing officer will review the conditional use permit for the alcohol and the sign variance.
So we never see it again.
And not until it's built.
Bravo.
If all goes well, you won't see it again. We might note the staff report and the agreement with Trader Joe's does spell out a rather aggressive schedule to bring the store to fruition. And I want to personally add that because on occasion I find myself over at UCLA, their new stores are fantastic. It'll be a tremendous asset to the North End, tremendous asset to Glendale, because they are beautiful stores. The staff report does spell out a rather aggressive schedule with, I think, it's 4 months for the design process and approvals, and then a 270-day construction period, so about a year.
Another interesting thing, Mr. Mayor, this article says that the chain's standard 13,000 square foot size store will stock the usual 2,000 items, including the chain's famous $1.99 a bottle Charles Shaw wine and butter-filled pretzels.
Peanut butter pretzels.
So I guess the same thing at every store, 13,000 square feet. Well, you have it down pat.
What I would like to do is once this passes DRB, maybe we can have a few slides so we can keep the public's interest piqued in it as the design
Sure, we'll come back periodically and give you a status report.
Mr. Draymond.
One last thing, Mr. Mayor, other than it would be nice to have someone from Trader Joe's to come up so that they can be tortured just slightly and say a few words. And it looks like that's going to be Mr. Yokomizo.
You don't want to be tortured.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, city staff, it's really been a long road. I think most of you recall that the genesis of this was the ICSE convention 2 years ago. That's coming up next Monday. Next Monday and Tuesday is that convention. We're now at 2 years, and I just like to thank the city staff. They've been fantastic to work with, and we're really looking forward to this. We think it's going to be a beautiful store. It's one of the few we've designed from scratch, and we've had some great input. So we think it's really going to be part of that community. So, thanks. Any questions?
Just build it.
Any specific torture you'd like to inflict?
No, I was just looking at a calendar and noticing that the first time that this was all covered and mentioned was in the Glendale News Press in June of 2007.
The wheels of government move slow.
So, and I think this was
Yeah.
quick by government standards.
By government
So,
standards.
Good things take time.
All right, thank you very
Thank
much.
There you want,
Ms. Friedman was going to make a motion?
I'm going to move 8A.
I'll second
no,
that.
no, you can't. 8A1.
881.
Sorry?
Yeah.
881 is a resolution,
Yeah. Second.
seconded by Mr. Draymond. So roll call, please.
8A1.
And that would be the revised
The
resolution.
revised as presented earlier.
Roll call.
Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Quintero, Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Najarian.
Want to
Yes.
introduce the ordinance?
Mr. Draymond,
I would love to introduce the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
thank you, at 8A2, introduced by Mr. Draymond. Thank you. Next item,
Mr. Mayor and Council, we now return to oral communications where discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. And the city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for an investigation and a report.
thank you, Ronald Baines, followed by Margaret Hammond
Almost done.
with a smiley face. Gabrielle O'Sullivan.
Oh, sorry.
I'm really not that bad. You need to leave.
Well, you know.
Mayor Najarian, council members and staff, my name is Ronald Baines. I have noticed two things that have come kind of together at the same time. Very interestingly, I noted that the city is going to introduce new street name signs around the city, and we also have a desire to brand Glendale. And I'm suggesting the possibility of possibly putting them together and in smaller font than the street name, put the name Glendale, or possibly the Glendale logo. With the neighborhoods around here melding from Burbank to Glendale to Los Angeles, etc., sometimes it's difficult to tell where you are. So I would just think that that would be a possibility, and it might really help to brand Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Margaret Hammond, followed by Gabrielle O'Sullivan and Harry Zavos.
Good evening, Your Honor, Mayor Najarian, members of the council, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. I'm here to bring to your attention again that this Thursday evening, May the 20th, there will be a Then and Now event put on by the Glendale Historical. The Then, of course, is the Kiefer Eyrich Building, which has been around since 1925, and of course is one of a kind, I think, in America. Myself, I think it's a marvelous building. Wanted to buy it, but anyway. And then the Now, of course, is the Osborne Building, which is super modernistic, even more than our building on stilts, I guess. And the event will have guided tours of the two buildings, and it will start at 6:30 to 8:30, and they will have some wine, cheese, and sweets. And there is parking, of course. Now, as you may well know, this building that is the Then is now occupied by the Assistants League of Glendale, wherein we also have a thrift shop in the rear, which will be open that evening, by the way. And the thrift shop is run, and we raise money from that particular business, if you want to call it, for our different charities. One of them being dressing school kids who cannot afford clothing, whose names are submitted by teachers or nurses so that they can be dressed and go to school without having kids looking at them with, like I used to have, holes in my socks. Anyway, it's a terrific program. We do the SAT classes. We have senior luncheon that we do once a month. And we do scholarships for students from Glendale High School, or not just Glendale High School, the high schools, so they can go on to GCC or wherever. And I think that I happen to like very much myself. We do backpacks for kids to go on vacation in the summer to a camp. And again, the thrift shop has terrific bargains. They have furniture that comes in from estate sales that are wonderful pieces of furniture. A lot of designer clothes. Matter of fact, this blouse I think I bought 2 or 3 years ago for $5, and I mean it's great. I've worn it for 3 years, and my hat too. So I just love my thrift shop, and I really advise anybody that wants to get some good bargains to go there. Now, about people and texting on their phones, it just drives me nuts. My grandson was almost killed up on the Angeles Crest Highway by a guy texting. Broadside, it ended up being taken unconscious to the hospital. It was a miracle. His car was completely totaled. So it was a miracle. And I just read in the paper, I don't know whether the person was on the phone, but a driver blowing a stop sign and knocking down a cyclist and injuring him quite severely. Again, and I myself, one night I was coming here to City Council, was hit in the rear end by a woman on a cell phone. Wasn't happy, my brand new car, and I've been hit again. Somebody on a cell phone. I don't get it. Why do they have to talk on the damn phone when they are driving? You've got to pay attention to traffic. I mean, that's something that just gets me really riled, is that not paying attention. The other thing would be the Great American Cleanup. I know I missed. I was supposed to be here earlier with Sam Engel and Jim Reichelt. Again, it's going to be from 9 to 1:30. The 100 block of North Isabel, and I'm a great believer in this because this program is also part of, getting rid of shopping carts around the city and getting rid of graffiti. I remember the mayor helping us out on one Great American Cleanup where he brought us water, and we persuaded him to put the trash in the back of his nice car to bring back. He's looking at me. Why is she saying that? His wife and sons were on the trip. But, it's great. Go. Meet your neighbors. Come out. Do it. I don't care who you are or where you're from. It's a great thing to be part of the city, of cleaning it up and having that feeling of pride of why our city is one of Keep America's Beautiful's top city in America. So I really feel that it's a great event. The other thing is I'm still getting in my nose out of joint about the northeast corner of Maple and Louise Street. Every week, and right now for 2 weeks, there have been 3 couches sitting out on that corner. And I don't know why they're not picked up. I don't know why city staff has to go by that corner all the time. In 2 weeks, why hasn't it been reported? I thought I was going to wait and see how long it would take. And I am going to be calling tomorrow morning, of course, and speaking to a few people. But I don't understand. It really is disgusting. And I'm trying to rent my apartments near there, and to have that trash laying out there for 2 weeks, it really doesn't make the city look like a really nice place to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. Gabrielle O'Sullivan, followed by Harry Zavos.
Good evening, gentlemen of the Council and Ms. Friedman. My name is Gabrielle O'Sullivan. I'm here to talk about the state of the arts in Glendale. I got a little bit of your redevelopment agency meeting last week where you were talking about the new tax that's going to be imposed on new developers. I wanted to know if the new developers could actually allocate or designate where they wanted the money to be spent. Secondly, you were talking at great length about the Alex, which is a beautiful theatre, architecturally wonderful. Luna Playhouse still exists in Glendale, and we never get any attention whatsoever. Even Mr. Drayman and Miss Friedman, who purport to be great patrons of the arts, we have never seen you there in 4.5 years, and I think that is a shame if you're supposed to be supporting the arts. We've got 2 shows on at the moment. One is The Sunshine Boys by Neil Simon, a comedy, and it runs on Saturday evening at 7:30 and Sunday at 2 o'clock. We also have Aunt Dan and Lemon by Wallace Shawn, which is running Thursday evenings and Friday evenings at 7:30. And I also am still concerned about the development of this new museum on Brand. I would like to ask our city manager, who suggests that it should come to Glendale, to bring money, what educational value it has to the young people in Glendale. I, as an educator, would never arrange a field trip to that museum. I think they're much more interesting and valuable things for children to be involved with. Thank you.
Thank you. Harry Zavos.
My name's Harry Zavos, and Council, I'm here at the direction of the Ross Moines Mountain Homeowners Association Board in my capacity as chairman of its action committee to talk about 2 things, the street lamps and the planting of trees. And in some ways, Margaret's pointing out the honor accorded this city by Keep America Beautiful as a appropriate backdrop as to what I have to say. First, the association wants to express their appreciation for the repainting and the refurbishing of those traditional street lamps that have been there ever since Ross Moines and Bellhurst and Casa Verdugo tracks were developed. It has made a very positive contribution to the appearance of the neighborhood. However, those refurbishing of the street lamps peter out at about Cordova or Cedar going west. And if you look at some of those street lamps, the paint is chipped, and you can see what appears to be rust coming through those posts. And some are worse than others. They really look bad. And I guess I'm just asking whether or not the city plans to continue refurbishing those street lamps, and if so, when that might be completed. What it's done for the neighborhood going east is really a considerable improvement, and we would like to see all the neighborhoods covered by our association have the same positive impact. The second thing is we wanted to also acknowledge the sensitivity of the city when, as a result of switching over to low voltage, they had to replace the globes. And they showed that consideration and cooperation in several ways. One way is they solicited and got input in the selection of the various styles of globes that would go on those street lamps as replacements. And equally important, there is an aluminum collar which adapts the globe to the existing post. And it really is out of keeping with the entire pole. And in meetings with the city, that problem jointly was solved by the city agreeing to paint that collar so it would fit in with the pole. However, apparently at about Cedar and Mountain, some poles had been already painted before that decision was made, and the collars still remain as aluminum collars. And if the painting continues going west of Cedar, I would hope that those collars would also be painted so that they will blend in with the posts and not detract from the traditional look of those lamp posts. Finally, they also agreed to change an aluminum post on the corner of Lasagna and Mountain, which was out of keeping with those traditional street lamps. However, there are a handful of poles still existing in those neighborhoods. For example, I noted that there was one at 1258 Cedar and another one at 920 Howard. And we would hope that the city would replace those with the traditional posts as they did at the corner of Lasagna and Mountain. But again, for what the city has done going east of Cedar or Cordova, we're very, very appreciative. We would like the same thing to happen going west. Also, with respect to trees, there's been considerable replanting of trees in our neighborhood, and nobody's complaining about that. But the kind of pattern of replanting just seems to puzzle us, both the spacing of the trees and where the trees are. For example, I live in the 1400 block of Mountain. Now, if you go up and down the 1300 or 1400 block of Mountain, you'll find a lot of trees, both in the parkway and on the front lawns of properties. But on the other hand, if you go down, I've written it here, I think it's the 800 block, yes, the north side of the 800 block of Stocker. Nope, that's not the one I want. It's on Glen Oaks. Let's see, I guess I didn't write it down, but it's about the 800 block, the north side of the 800 block of Glen Oaks. You have over half a block without one tree. Now, that's the most extreme example, more than a half a block with only one tree. And on that half a block, there's only one tree on private property. And if you go up and down those streets, you'll find big gaps where there are trees. If you go to Stocker at the, let's see, I'm losing my place in my notes. Yes, the 800 block of Stocker. You'll find that half of the block that goes west has trees spaced along the parkway in an attractive fashion. But if you take the half of the block going east, there are 4 trees accordion together, and then there's a total lack of trees from there to the corner. And we would hope that these trees aren't being planted by contractors on a willy-nilly basis, but that there's some overall plan in the planting of those trees, and that the city would target those areas where there's a paucity of trees rather than where we already have existing trees. And I would like to get some response from the city whether or not there is a plan with regard to the planting of these trees, and if so, why don't they target those areas? And there are many of them in our neighborhood where there are no trees, or there are very few trees.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. That concludes our communications. And let me go to Mr. Draymond.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if we can we talk to Mr. Zern about streetlights in Ross Moines? I know that there is a plan.
Trees.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, members of the
I'm talking about
council,
streetlights right
I'll have
now,
to defer on
This is GWP.
Yeah. I can do the trees.
Do the trees, but we did, well, actually, let's talk to Mr. Starbird. He's our fallback man, and he happened to speak up. So let's talk about streetlights, Mr.
That'll show me.
That'll show you. You have different letters after your name than GWP, but I think they currently are in a plan. Are they not?
I don't know their schedule. The schedule is to move through and eventually refurbish all of the old historic lights in the city. I was noticing.
It's pretty stark.
Yeah.
There's Mr. Zavas. It is pretty stark when you come across Glen Oaks and it's basically Cordova. You hit that point and all the
and I don't know what their phasing is. We'll find out from GWP and communicate with Mr. Zavas about that.
I thought it was my understanding that is part of the schedule, but it just hasn't happened.
And I don't know what their timing is. I was noting just this week other areas where I think the lights were probably even longer without paint and refurbishment than those even in Mountain Ross Moines, which is hard to find lights that seem to be even longer without maintenance. But I know GOP has a whole phased program. I don't know where it is or its timing, but we'll get that and communicate it to the homeowners group.
And that was going to be my request, if we could communicate that and about the collars and so on up there. The other thing is the trees. Mr. Zern.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, first to answer the question, yes, there is a plan, and yes, those trees, or I should say no, those trees are not planted willy-nilly by a contractor, but under the...
Is that a technical term, by the way?
I'm using it, yes, I just carrying on, but our urban forester and our assistant maintenance services administrator, who also is a certified arborist, they're managing that program, so... to get to the second part, we have many areas in the city that I would love to be able to plant more trees. We have vacancies and we have limited resources. This is a particular area that's been reduced in our budget over the last several years. We go after grants. I've convinced Mr. Chapchin to give me some of the tree donations from Arbor Day that where the parks are pretty full of trees and I can plant those. We look for any other donations we can and then take the limited budget we have and go after different areas in the city. The list, as you can imagine, is much longer than the resources we have. But we plant every penny that we have. And we get around and in many cases replacing trees that have either reached the end of their life or are causing some damage to the infrastructure. So we've got that as well as trying to look at the vacancies and plant those as well. Thirdly, I'll just mention there was some mention of how the trees were planted, and there is a plan, and it depends on the species and it depends on what the effect of that is. Many times if there are partial canopies on a street, we'll try to emulate that. So we plant trees closer together in the type that will get up and create a uniform canopy on the street. It takes some time for that to occur, and sometimes when you look at the trees you think, wow, that doesn't look right, but the intended effect is 10 or 15 or 20 years from now, and it's all, again, done under the observation of the urban forester and to their plan. No question, we have areas, and I would love, like I said, to plant trees galore, but we do all that we can with the resources we have.
Lastly, I just wanted to say, Mr. Mayor, that some years ago, coming before this council, not this council, but a previous council, Mr. Mayor, you weren't on the council at the time, but Mr. Weaver, you were. Mr. Zavos, I came before council to complain about that very streetlight on Howard. And before you said the word, I had already mouthed the word. I think it's 900 block of yeah. And it came to my attention because the homeowners who own the house behind that streetlight at the time were featured in a magazine like Home and Garden or something like that, where their home was being featured, their gardens, English gardens in the backyard were being featured, interior design and antiques and all of that. And here was this sort of utilitarian metal streetlight just plunked down there. And so you see what a great advocate I was, Mr. Zavos. Here we are in 2010, and I'm on the council now, and it's still there. So I hope one of these days we'll be able to take care of those few stragglers that are out there. They really, these lights are like I don't know, they're like a splinter. They just don't belong there. And then lastly, to Ms. O'Sullivan, just for those looking at it, is not a new tax on developers that we were discussing. It is the existing 1% public art fund, and how that will be directed and whether or not that should go citywide. But it's not a new tax, just for those people that are out there sensitive to the words new and tax joined together in the same sentence. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just for Mr. Barnes's comment about the branding and the street signs, we had a very similar discussion here a week or two ago. So we're on the same page as you. And the new street signs will incorporate, hopefully, whatever branding is done by the city. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but if they think that it's wise, it's something that we'll certainly incorporate. And those signs won't start to be produced until the branding bit is done. And I can't resist responding a little bit to Ms. O'Sullivan, just saying that I do think that it's not quite fair to say that you can't have a commitment or care about the arts if you don't go to her particular playhouse. I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's true. And I'm sorry if she feels that she's been ignored, but I think the city has made an effort to reach out to the Luna Playhouse in the past, and there are a variety of reasons why that hasn't happened, but I don't believe that that responsibility falls completely on the city's shoulders. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anything, Mr. Weaver?
Oh, there's a basketball game on TV, and I plan on seeing the second half.
Okay.
I think.
Well, actually, Mr. Mayor, there's this whole new program of one council member remaining and to lock up the building.
Forget that one.
And I think it's by alphabet. It's Mr. Wheeler's turn.
That's right.
I think to.
Okay, we have no new business.
Move we
Make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
What?
Second.
We're adjourned.
Fourth quarter?